During the next few minutes, we'll offer a little bit about what we've been doing for the past 12 months, a little bit about what we're going to do for the next year, and at the end, we'll save time for a little bit of froth. There's a new dimension building in the kind of coverage that we provide from Washington. It's a dimension created by two United States senators we cover in the normal course of events, men of ambition. Alan Cranston of California and John Glenn of Ohio have designs on this mansion. Both want to be president. Both are trying to convince Democrats they can lead them to victory next November. Although Senator Cranston appears to be a long shot, his victory in the Wisconsin State Democratic Convention straw poll about 10 days ago has turned a few heads. Cranston is becoming a one-issue candidate, nuclear freeze. He's claiming it as his own, and it is winning him some support. Former Vice President Walter Mondale came in second to Cranston in the Wisconsin voting. Mondale is also beginning to come in second to John Glenn in a number of private political polls. The betting here at the White House is that President Reagan will seek re-election. If he does, and if the economy continues to improve, it's probable that no Democrat will finish better than second. But that doesn't keep them from going for it.
I come here today to announce my candidacy for President of the United States.
I declare my candidacy for President of the United States. Thank you. Thank you.
We intend to keep an eye on the campaigns of Cranston and Glenn and provide periodic reports for our stations as the two men make the march to the Democratic National Convention in San Francisco next July. We've made a couple of trips with Glenn so far. He was still sampling the waters, hadn't announced he would run, when we met up with him at the Naval Air Station in Memphis last November. He flew in to help celebrate the 207th birthday of the U.S. Marine Corps. This guy, who had served 23 years as a Marine, was in his element. He was not only welcome, he was obligated to attend 3 parties that night. He shared birthday cake with the enlisted men at 7:30, non-commissioned officers at 8, and finally with the officers at 8:30. For 2 years before he made his announcement, John and Annie Glenn hopscotched the country, often flying in their own Beechcraft Baron, measuring potential support. Paul Moulton and I hitched a ride from Memphis to New Orleans.
We went from Washington to Columbus for a meeting, then on up to Chicago for a meeting, then down to Memphis, now down to New Orleans, and then back into Washington. So it's very enjoyable, and I flew for so many years, I thoroughly enjoy it. This is like relaxation for me.
They don't travel on the beach much these days. There are too many people, support troops and media, on the road with them. We, by the way, were the only TV crew who flew with the Glenns to New Concord, Ohio, for his announcement. His campaign staff owns him from 10 a.m. Fridays until 10 p.m. Mondays. They try to book 20 speeches a week. In addition, there are quiet, private meetings with influential Democrats and as many fundraisers as they can stir up. The Glenn Committee is spending about $400,000 a month. It wishes it were twice that. Tuesdays through Thursday, Glenn works as a U.S. Senator. But even on those days, campaign managers insist that he make a minimum of 30 personal telephone calls a day, drumming up support in cities and counties. We haven't traveled much with Cranston yet, but we did slow him down one evening long enough to get an exclusive, extended interview in his Capitol office. Cranston has 2 major liabilities, the experts say: identity, who is he, and his advanced age. The senator has those answers down pat.
I don't have the recognition that Walter Mondale has because I wasn't vice president with Jimmy Carter. I don't have the fame that John Glenn has because he was an astronaut. But name recognition can be acquired, and I intend to acquire it, and I'm convinced I can, by a solid campaign in the early primary states. And if you do well there, then you will automatically get name recognition elsewhere. I'd like to add that name recognition has nothing to do with one's qualities or lack of qualities to be a good president.
You will be 70 by the time the Democrats convene next summer. Is that going to be a detriment to you? Age?
Well, I'm younger than Ronald Reagan. I'll always be younger than Ronald Reagan. I'll be younger when we run against each other in 1984. I'm about the same age that Winston Churchill was, or I will be that age when I'm in the White House if I get there, when he was leading England so magnificently during World War II. I think the people of our country want someone with experience, because you only gain wisdom and knowledge by experience, and my years have given me that opportunity. And principles and values don't wither with age, they get stronger, at least they do in my case. And I'm in superb physical shape. I'd be glad to challenge anybody within reach of the presidency to a 50-yard dash or a 100-yard dash or a mountain climb carrying a 60-pound backpack.
As we said, we'll be keeping track of those two candidates every now and then for the next year. Washington does not live on politics alone. Sometimes it is moved on a wave of emotion. The Vietnam Veterans Memorial has been a continuing emotional experience. Sometimes it has rubbed raw. Marilyn Burkle watched and experienced.
Critics complained that the long black walls were an anti-war statement. A group of congressmen, veterans themselves, worked out a compromise. A statue and an American flag will be added to the site. With that conflict resolved, Washington finally welcomed home the Vietnam veterans.
The experience I had 10, 12 years ago, I've kept buried inside of me for many years, and I felt it was time for me to share it with other people who have lived through the same thing I did.
This is the first and last time that all these Vietnam veterans will ever be together like this. And it's our day. This is our day in Washington. Everybody else had theirs, you know.
We're finally getting together and getting the tears out and coming home.
The face of the national tribute to Vietnam veterans was the fourth dedication of this monument.
All of us can now say that we are proud to be Vietnam veterans and that we are proud to have held.
The 2-acre plot of land the memorial stands on was donated by the government. All the money for design and construction came from contributions, nearly $7 million. Long after the pageantry ended, the monument continues to draw crowds. In less than a year, 1 million people have walked this path, making this monument the third most visited site in Washington, second only to the Smithsonian Air and Space Museum and the 60-year-old Lincoln Memorial. In January, hundreds of families whose loved ones are still missing in Southeast Asia came to see the memorial and to hear President Reagan's commitment that the MIAs and POWs are not forgotten.
Well, today, I want you to know that your vigil is over. Your government is attentive, and intelligence assets of the United States are fully focused on this issue. The government bureaucracy now understands that these goals are the highest national priority, and there is strong bipartisan support in the Congress.
Roger Benfeld, Ohio prisoner of war. Michael Baldy.
There's a living reminder that some Americans are still working to bring home those soldiers. Each state has a delegation of veterans who keep a week-long, 4-hour vigil. They say they'll stay until all the missing are accounted for. So the Vietnam veterans are a continuing story in Washington.
We've yet to meet the person who could visit that memorial and walk away unmoved. Well, we said we'd save time for a little froth. Last year we showed you pretty pictures of Washington in the spring. This year we're going to show you pictures of people enjoying those scenes. People from almost everywhere. From every corner of the continent they come. Visitors to their nation's capital. Most any week is Tourist Week in Washington. Spring and summer attract the heaviest traffic. Cherry Blossom Week is always one of the biggest. As individuals, couples, families, groups, they come to brush against history, to watch the government at work. They are armed. They shoot. Millions of pictures, thousands of feet of film to preserve their memories. Traffic can be intimidating. In spite of the supposed symmetry of its streets, this town can baffle a stranger.
Sometimes the lines are long, and consequently the wait. Yet few seem to go away disappointed. With shrines to the founding fathers and a memorial to our most recent war dead, there is something for everyone. The Smithsonian is a treasure trove, which at best can only be sipped during the typical visit of a few days. The city is a magnet for foreign visitors. But it is truly America's city, and Americans by the million come to lay claim each year.
Finding license plates from all the 50 states is not so difficult to do in Washington. Finding them in alphabetical order, that's the trick. If you're so disposed to bring your license plate to Washington, let us know. These days we're doing our best to make up for our loss in shared uplink revenues by conducting personal tours.